Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So today, before we get into the topic, I actually do have two updates to share with you. So one, my daughter bought a car. I've been talking about for a while that she was saving for a car and then looking for a car, and she finally bought a car last week. So we're super excited. It's a black little Nissan Sentra. It's older, it's got high mileage, but she's going to be commuting locally. It's a really great first car. We're super, super excited for her. So that's that. And then the other thing to share is this episode's coming out a little bit, well, it's actually coming out the same day it always comes out, but it usually is pre-recorded and goes out in the morning. And the reason it's not, I'm recording it right now before I'm about to just post it online, is because we just got back from a long weekend in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. We stayed Friday night and Saturday night at a place called the Inn at Jim Thorpe, which I really, really loved because it's right in the center of the little town. If you've never been to Jim Thorpe, it's just like this cute little town with shops and restaurants, and there's a train station there. And the hotel had like a little balcony that you could like sit out on tables and like have a drink and watch people walking by, and it was just really cool. I just loved it. But the reason we went there is because we had tickets to something called a bike train. So there's this, I think it's called Lehigh Gorge State Park. They have a train that you can take. There's like a scenic railway there, and it's a train that you could take to the state park, and you load your bikes onto the train, and then they take you up to the top of the mountain, and you ride your bikes back. So it's like a 25-mile bike ride back. And they say it's all downhill, but it's really barely downhill at all. Like maybe there's like a mild grade downhill, like in general. But it's relatively flat because it's a rails to trails. So that means it used to be a railroad that they turned into a bike ride. But it was really, really nice. We have e-bikes, so we didn't need it to be downhill. Actually, I was hoping it wasn't too much downhill anyway, because I didn't want to be like on my brakes the whole time. I get nervous, like when you're like going downhill and picking up speed. So it was actually perfect. We had got a sandwich the day before, so we brought that with us, and we were able to stop at a picnic table and have lunch. And the trail is just like so nice. There's like waterfalls, and you're going along this like big like river. I don't know what if they call it a river, or I guess it's a river that runs through the gorge, but it's just like so beautiful, and there's rocks, and just the scenery is just so nice. And we saw like people whitewater rafting and kayaking and along like the river where we were, and it was just really great. So we got back from that last night. We stayed Friday night, Saturday night. We did like Jim Thorpe on Saturday, and then Sunday morning we had to get on the train early. So we took the train ride, then we rode the bikes back, and then by the time we got home, it was like, I guess around like 5 or 6 o'clock. And I was just kind of tired out from the weekend, so I didn't feel like recording the podcast yet. I was almost actually going to skip a week, but then I was like, no, I don't want to skip. I'm just going to record this morning. So anyway, that trip was really, really cool. If you like bicycling or you like e-biking, and you're in the area of Jim Thorpe, I would suggest checking that out. You don't have to do the train ride. You can just ride it. I think they even have shuttles you can pay to drop you off up there. If it's not a weekend when the train is running, you do have to buy the train tickets in advance, I believe, because they probably sell out. And they only do it like one weekend a month for like during the nice weather. I don't know if it starts in April or May or whatever, but like for example, in August, it was just this weekend they had it Saturday and Sunday. And there might be like a morning and afternoon ride. We did the morning one, I'm not sure. But I would definitely check that out if you are in the area and you like that kind of stuff. I know one of you out there had commented about e-biking, so let me know if you did that one in the Facebook group. So anyway, so about today's, oh, well, actually, before I get into today's topic, though, I do still want to do my other quick reading updates. So right now I'm listening to She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. It's a 3.81 rating on Goodreads. It's about this woman who's trying to find a balance between being a single mom to a teenage daughter and working as a full-time nurse. While she's on duty at the hospital, a patient named Caitlin arrives in a coma with a traumatic brain injury, having jumped from a bridge, plunging over 20 feet to the train tracks below. But of course, there's a twist, and I don't know what it is yet, but it's kind of going to be like it's like a suspense, like murder mystery type book. I don't know if you call it a murder mystery or just suspense or whatever, but there's weird things happening, and I think it's going to be pretty good so far. I usually like Mary Kubica's books, so that's what I'm listening to right now. I just finished The Dry by Jane Harper. That's a Goodreads rating of 4.06. The description is: in the grip of the worst drought in a century, the farming community of Kirawara is faced with life and death choices daily when three members of a local family are found brutally slain. So that was another suspense type murder type book. Um, but I enjoyed that one too. It was I don't know, 4.06 I thought was a little high for it, but it was a good book. I did enjoy that. And then my favorite meal this week was chicken cutlets and baked feta pasta. The chicken cutlets are fine. I mean, they're good. I don't make them that often because I don't make fried food too often. And I don't know how to make chicken cut. I do know how to make chicken cutlets, not fried, but to make them like how I'm used to them when I grew up. And we want to like have that as a treat once in a while. They kind of have to be fried. So, I just bread the chicken cutlets, fry them up. But that's not really my favorite part of the meal. My favorite part of the meal is the baked feta pasta because it's so, so easy and it comes out so good if you like feta cheese and tomatoes. You just take a dish and you put a block of feta cheese in the center. You put 2 pints of cherry tomatoes around the outside, drizzle it with olive oil, bake it. While it's baking, you cook up some pasta. I think it's like Salentani pasta, like the squiggles. Not like the rotini squiggles, like the other kind of squiggles. I think it's called Salentani or something like that. But anyway, then when the feta cheese mixture is done, you take it out and then you just like mix it all around and you stir the pasta in and it's so good. I don't remember if I said before you bake it, the feta cheese and tomatoes, you drizzle olive oil over it. I may have said that, but I might not have. But then anyway, you just mix it all together. You could add a little more olive oil if you need to, but it's just so easy and I really love it and it goes really good with the chicken cutlets. It goes good with a lot of things. So that was definitely my favorite meal this week. So, for today's topic this week, I wanted to talk about a Pinterest article that I saw because I thought it was really good. I thought it had a lot of really good tips. It's from a website called greenwithless.com, and the title of the article was Mental Minimalism: Brilliant Tips to Declutter Your Mind. Um, so, I think that a lot of times we are always focused on decluttering our homes, maybe even decluttering our schedules. But I don't know if we think about decluttering our mind that much because those all do tie into the same thing. But this has a lot of tips about ways to kind of clear our mind and kind of be a little bit at more at peace. So it has 14 tips. So I'm just going to go over them really quick and kind of share my thoughts on them. So the first one is to spend time offline. It talks about the fact that most of us spend at least a few hours a day online, whether it's because we're working or just we're just relaxing to scroll on social media. But being on the internet can really kind of make us feel like disconnected to the real world, and it can really impact our mental health. So it's really important to be mindful of how much time you're spending online and kind of try to take some time purposefully away from being online because if we don't do it on purpose, sometimes people tend to just like go right to it. Not all of us, but I know like myself too. If I'm just like sitting there, sometimes instead of like getting up and doing something that might be maybe more relaxing or something more productive, I'll sometimes just like pick up the phone and just start looking at stuff. We can tend to do it out of boredom. So really like actively making sure to try to spend time offline is one of the really good tips to kind of minimize what's going on in your mind as far as stress type things, or just to kind of clear it for better things. Do things that you've been putting off. This is, I think, is a really, really great tip because one of the things that really clutters up your mind is when you're thinking about these things that you know you need to do and you're just not doing them. Sometimes not even necessarily because you don't have time, sometimes just because you just don't want to do them. And you could be sitting there knowing you have time to do them right now, but you just don't want to, but yet you're still sitting there thinking about them, knowing you should be doing them, and it's bothering you and you're not enjoying your time because you're thinking about those things that you really should be doing. So even if you could just do like one or two of those things when you have a minute, that will free that from your mind and it'll just make you feel so much better. Another tip is to limit your commitments. I definitely have talked about this one before. Sometimes when we just have too much on our calendar, it can just really make us feel stressed out and we have too much things to think about because we're thinking about all the regular basic things we need to do in life and then that we have these commitments and maybe sometimes there's preparation that has to go along with them. Just having more free time in our day to be able to make choices on what we want to do with that time rather than have everything committed to like especially like outside commitments where you have to like go somewhere, be somewhere. Limiting those just to what you can really manage easily and the things that you really really want to be involved in or that your kids want to be involved in. And then, of course, decluttering your physical space. So, this is about mental minimalism, but decluttering your space does help clear your mind also because when you're looking at things in your home that you don't use, it can kind of clutter your mind. It can make you feel bad about certain things. If you're looking at clothes that you never wear, it can make you feel bad that you spent money on those clothes and they're just sitting there. If you're looking at kitchen products that you thought you would use all the time but you never use them, that can make you feel bad because you're like, oh, I spent that money on those and I never used them, or oh, I thought I'd really like that, or someone gave that to me and I feel bad because I never use it. All of these things can clutter up our mind. So if we can get rid of those out of our space and just keep the things that we really enjoy and really use, or even things that you use, infrequently, but it's like, oh, well, we only use that at the holidays, that's different. I'm talking about things that you really truly never use and probably never will. Getting rid of those can get rid of those negative thoughts in your mind that you might have when you see them. Multitasking. So this this article talks about not multitasking, where we feel like we need to have something going on while we're doing something else. So I like to multitask. I don't know. I don't think that it's that bad, depending on how you do it. Like I could swear it was this article. I don't know if it was, but I saw somewhere where the woman said not to like listen to a book while she was doing something else because she felt like she just needed like peace and quiet. And that's fine if you just want peace and quiet because everyone needs peace and quiet at some times. But if you enjoy listening to a book or listening to music while you're cleaning or doing the dishes or whatever and multitasking in that way, I don't really see what the harm is in that. I guess maybe if you're just always multitasking, where you're always trying to get multiple things done at once. But I definitely do see the benefit of occasionally not multitasking, depending on what it is you're working on, really just putting your full focus into something. Because that's where you can kind of, get a little bit like out of focus if you're trying to really work on something and you're trying to do something else at the same time. So maybe that's where they're going with that. Making a list definitely is really, really helpful, especially having a master list, having one place to get everything written down that you need to do or that you don't want to forget about. Having one place to have that is so important because if you write down something that you need to do and you stick it on a list that you don't know where it is, it's still going to be in the back of your mind because you're constantly going to be thinking, like, I know there was something I need to do, and I think I wrote it down, but I don't know where I put that paper. You want to make sure you have one central location to have a master list. Even if you have multiple lists within that, if you don't feel comfortable just having everything on one list, if it's just like one notebook or one notes section in your phone, like somewhere that you can go that you'll be able to find what it is that you wanted to do or not forget about, because that can definitely clog up your mind when you're thinking about all those things that you need to do. Another tip she has is let go of perfectionism. Of course, I've talked about that so many times. When you feel like you have to get something just perfect, you'll delay doing it. Um, then it becomes one of those things that you know you need to do, but you're not doing it. So you might delay doing something because you don't feel like you know how to do it perfectly. Well, just do it. It'll be better to be done than to be perfect. You'll feel better if it's done than if it's perfect. And when once you see it done not perfectly, you might look at it and be like, yeah, that's totally fine and move on. So definitely perfectionism can clog up our mind if we if we delay doing things because of it, because we're not sure how to do them perfect. Um, Another tip they have on here is to move, do exercise, go out for a walk. I work from home a few days a week, and more recently, like in the nice weather, we've been a lot of times going for just like a quick walk on my lunch break, and it definitely like helps clear your mind. It just makes you feel better. It like rejuvenates you. Sometimes I'll be having like a really stressful day at work and I'll think I shouldn't go take work. I should just keep working. I have too much work to do. But if I just am like, you know what? No, I'll get by. A half hour is not going to kill me. It's not like the company is going to come to a halt because I took a half hour and went for a walk. So, and then I'll do it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. So it's really worth it to just kind of get up and move, especially if you feel like there's a lot on your mind. And it can kind of help you think through things too when you're walking, if there's something that you're trying to kind of come to a solution on. She also talks about doing 1 minute tasks for the way. That's definitely a good one. Sometimes things come up, and rather than taking the time to take the time to write it down and then do it later, you probably could have just done it already. So really think about like what types of things um, you could do like just now. Like if something comes up, instead of reading it, taking the time, writing it down, planning to do it later, putting it on your calendar, just do it. If it's something you could just do really quickly, just do it. It's one less thing to clog your mind. And then she has one other thing. I'm not going to go through every single one of these 14 things because I think the rest of them are just kind of, they're not like, whatever, they're fine. I just don't need to go through every single one. I'm just trying to pick the ones that I think are really important. But the last one I'll go through is she says to do a brain dump. So sometimes when you just have a lot on your mind, maybe you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to plan for that trip that's coming up. I have one of the kids has a dentist appointment on Monday. One of the kids needs to make sure that they get something done. I need to make sure I schedule an appointment for my car. Sometimes there's just like all these different things running through our mind, and just kind of sitting down and just writing down everything that you're thinking of that's stressing you out can really help get it out of your mind, get it onto paper, and then help you figure out when you're going to do it. And what I find sometimes is when I actually do that, because I actually wind up doing that in my professional life sometimes at work, if I just feel like things are too overwhelming and I just write them down, you wind up usually finding that there's not as many things as you think there were. I'm not saying there's not a lot of things, but it's usually something that you can manage. But for some reason, when it's running around in your head, it just feels overwhelming. So that's the last one of these tips that I wanted to share today. But I just thought that was a really great article because I think if we think of those things and we kind of practice them, or at least kind of keep them in our mind and try and do them when we can, or if we're feeling a little bit overloaded or overwhelmed, they can really be helpful. And then that helps free up our time to manage our rest of our time better, to do the things that we actually are enjoying and loving in our life. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week.
So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast, those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.